Coach, and I'm here today to talk about sections to include on your resume. So in one of my last videos, I mentioned that when making this initial video for the resume, I just realized I had so much content that I needed to really break it up into 4 main videos. So the first video I have is related to some resume 101 to keep in mind when you're first updating or creating your brand new resume. This video right here, which talks about sections to include in your resume and dive a little bit deeper about them. The third video is about smart descriptions, so how to take the descriptions or the bullet points on your resume to the next level to get noticed by recruiters. And lastly, some final tips and tricks to kind of apply to your resume when you start to hit some roadblocks, you need some inspiration, or you need to try to get your resume down to 1 page. So that is what I'm here for. Make sure to check out my other videos. And I do want to remind you guys that I am a career coach. So I help students and young professionals advance their careers and get their dream jobs. So the 3 main services that I offer are resume services, elevator pitches, and interviewing, where I work with my clients one-on-one with personalized coaching to take their accomplishments, the things they've already achieved, and really get them to align with things that companies are looking for so that you get noticed by recruiters, so that you get placed as a top candidate on their list, and so that you get offered that job opportunity. So that's what I'm here for. If you want to get some personalized one-on-one coaching or help, just visit my website, taylorosmith.com, book you an appointment, and we can work on your stuff together. If you have any questions in advance prior to booking an appointment, feel free to email me or visit me on my socials. You can slide in my DMs. I'll put all of that information below in the description. So looking forward to meeting with y'all. So in this video, like I mentioned, I want to talk about sections on your resume. So how I like to kind of break these up are into 2 main buckets or categories. So the first one are your essentials, kind of like your non-negotiables. You need to have these on your resume kind of no matter what. And then the second category or group, these are your add-ons or your kind of a la carte items. So, if you still have a lot of space on your resume, then you can kind of plug and play these things into your resume, these a la carte items, to kind of help you go to the next level. If you have a lot of experience, you might not want to add a lot of these add-ons because it's taking up space where you can talk more about your experiences. So it does get a little tricky. If you do need help, you can reach out to your career coach to figure out what would be the best way to shape your resume for you. But all of that being said, let's talk about the essentials first. So there are 6 essential sections on your resume that I have identified that I think are the most important personally. So the first is your name and personal information section, and we will talk about all of these in just a second. The second is the objective. Third is your education. 4 is professional experience. 5 is any leadership experience if you have it. So if you're in an extracurricular and you held an officer position. And lastly are your technical skills. So these are what I deem your essentials. Notice I did not say soft skills. Honestly, I think soft skills is fluff on your resume. It's taking up valuable space that you can use for something else. So instead you can apply that fluff into your objective or your leadership descriptions, which I will talk about a little bit more within this video and also in my smart descriptions video. So stay tuned for that. And the a la carte items, so your add-ons, what are these? So these include like your relevant courses, any relevant projects, maybe community service or volunteering that you have done, any awards and achievements, any certifications and trainings, and lastly, references. So I don't always recommend having references on your resume. If a employer wants those, they're going to ask you for those directly. But if you really want to, you can put a note at the bottom that says references available upon request. Kind of up to you, but that's kind of my 2 cents related to that. So now that we've talked about these 2 categories and buckets, I want to dive into each section a little bit more. So the first section, which is your name and your personal information. So this is going to be at the very top of your resume. And as I list these sections, they're kind of in sequential order, how you might want to have them on your resume. So the very top, you want to have your name and your personal information, because one, of course, I want to know whose resume is it that I'm reviewing, but also if I need to contact you back. So your email needs to be on your resume. Make sure that this is a professional email. So this isn't, it's your girl T Smith, and instead it's something like taylor.smith@gmail.com. So make sure that's professional. Also, you want to make sure that you include your phone number, preferably one that you use. I think everyone has cell phones nowadays. So adding that, so if they need to call you back urgently, they have that contact. And then lastly, you want to include your permanent address, or at least the city and state that you are located in. And the reason for this is if the company is out of state and they might have to consider relocating you. So they have an idea of where you are currently located, to kind of keep that in mind when it comes to relocation packages, etc. So that is your name and your personal information section. Next is your objective. So I know I said this is an essential or non-negotiable, but honestly, it's kind of optional. So this just really depends. If you are a student, you don't have any work experience, then you probably want to make sure you have your objective on there, honestly, so it can kind of take up some room. But also, if you are a professional, or maybe even like within your junior and senior year, and you have a lot of experience on your resume and you're running out of space, you can take off your objective to give you some space, because if you're applying to jobs directly online, they already know what it is that you are looking for. So you can go ahead and remove that objective. Totally up to you. It's great to have if you go to career fairs and you're talking to multiple companies, so you need a general blanket objective, but that's just something to kind of keep in mind. So that being said, I like to break up the objective into 4 parts to make it kind of easy to craft and create. So the first part I like to include are maybe 2 to 3 adjectives that describe you. So this goes back to your soft skills, right? Which lists things like someone who's dedicated, committed, hardworking, analytical, adaptable, able to work in teams. You can put these things in your objective. So just highlight 2 to 3 of them really quickly to kind of give an idea of who you are as a person, your work ethic. The second part that I like to include in the objective is what is it that you are actually looking for? So what is the position you're looking for, the industry you want to work in, maybe the department. So this can include whether it's a full-time, part-time, or internship experience you're looking for. Are you looking to work in engineering design, research development, finance, sales and commercial? You want to be a sales associate. What is it that you're looking for? And then lastly, you can include like the industry. So do you want to work in the pharmaceutical field? Do you want to work in the medical field? Do you want to work in oil and gas? You can specify all of that in your objective. So you can be as broad as you want. You can be as specific as you want. This is your opportunity to put that information in. The third part that I like to include in your objective is really, what do you bring to the table? So my example is that I was an engineering student a few years ago. And so what I like to put in my resume is that I am going to basically bring my engineering knowledge from the classroom and apply that into the workforce. That's what I bring to the table. So if you can, try to incorporate that in there. And then the last piece I like to include in the objective, the fourth thing, is going to be how are you going to benefit the company? So this can be as simple as to assist in reaching company goals, very general and basic. It could be to help foster new client relationships. Whatever you really want to put into this section is totally up to you. So just as a review, a quick example I have is a hardworking, analytical, and detailed-oriented engineering student seeking a supply chain internship where I can apply my knowledge and skills all while assisting company goals. So that is just one example you can use for the objective that's very clear on who you are and what you are looking for in a position. All right, so the next section is your education. So you can put your education near the top under your objective, or you can kind of put it near the bottom. It really just depends on what your experiences are like. So if you are a college student or maybe a recent high school student, you probably want to make sure you have your education up at the top, because that's very relevant to you, right? But maybe if you have a lot of experience already, and it's been years since you graduated, you can put your education experiences at the bottom, because it's not as important or relevant anymore, especially if you majored in something that you don't even use in your day-to-day anymore. For example, if you're like a history major and now you work in supply chain, that's totally fine to put that at the bottom, but you still want to have that on there so people know what is your highest level of education. But within this section, you want to make sure that you include the university, college, or even the high school that you attended. You also want to include your GPA. So this can be optional. If you have below a 3.0, you might not want to put it on your resume, but just know that companies are going to ask you. But you want to go ahead and put that on your resume, put it in bold, and you want to put whatever GPA scale it's on, because some schools, they may operate on a 4.0 scale, some might be on a 6.0 scale. So you want to be specific when you add that onto your resume. Also, you want to list any of the degrees that you have, whether they're bachelor's, associates, master's, what was your major, your minor, any concentrations if you had those, and then also what is your actual or your anticipated graduation date, so people know if you're a student, when can they expect you to work full-time. All right. So next is relevant coursework. So this is one of those additional a la carte items that you can add, especially for like freshmen or sophomore students in college. I highly recommend having this section. If you're a junior or senior, I highly recommend you remove this section from your resume, because at this point it kind of becomes fluff. As a recruiter, I expect you as a junior or senior to be in those meaty, relevant major classes, whether you are a business major, you are a biology major, you are an engineering major, math major, whatever. I expect you to already be in those classes, so it's not even necessary to list them. But if you are a freshman or a sophomore, and as a recruiter, I don't really know if you're calculus ready. I don't know if you've taken fundamental finance classes or fundamental marketing and business classes. So by listing those on your resume, that gives me a better idea to know, oh, this person has already taken thermodynamics and they're calculus ready, therefore they can do engineering internships and work experience. So having those on your resume kind of gives them a better idea of what you are capable, you're learning, to basically see if you are a good fit with their company. So these include could be like calculus, thermodynamics, any coding classes, C++, really just depends on your major. I will say though, if you're applying to a position that doesn't directly align with your major, so maybe I am a chemical engineering student, but I want to do more stuff within supply chain, and I've taken some business classes, I've taken some supply chain classes. Those aren't related to my major, but I can list those in the relevant courses section so they know that I am taking classes like that. So those are some things that you can keep in mind, y'all. All right, so you can just list those on your resume as a list separated by commas, or you can kind of list them in a row, maybe have 2 or 3 columns. You can look up some examples. If you need help with the career coach, I'm here to help y'all. And so the next section I want to talk about are your experiences. So this makes up lots of different things. This can apply to your professional or your work experiences. This can apply to your leadership experiences, as well as your volunteering and community service, and also any relevant projects. So when I say relevant projects, that's going to be more like if you're in a senior design class, maybe you're doing a capstone project, or maybe you're just doing a project in class where you have to present, or you're working in a team and you'll have to work and create some theoretical solution to some kind of problem, whatever. Go ahead and highlight those things in your resume, because those are experiences. Maybe you didn't get paid for them, but they highlight and they can relate to the jobs that you are applying for. So take advantage of those. Your teachers, it's a benefit actually for them giving your projects. It's no longer, oh, they're grading me for my midterm grade. Use this on your resume, right? But anyway, you can apply these all the same way. So this is what I'm going to talk about in my next video about SMART descriptions, where I dive in deeper on how to really take your description, your bullet points, and take them to a whole nother level. So you want to apply this logic to all of these sections. You don't want to just list your community service. You want to go into detail of what you did in those. So this is a challenge to some people, even your leadership experience. If you were an officer, if you were a treasurer, or you were a president, if you were a committee member, list the things that you did similar to your work experience. Don't just say that you were a member. If you're a member, then why is it on your resume? Unless you did something as a member, unless you volunteered and did things, then cool, add those bullets and descriptions. Because other than that, that just looks like fluff to me as a recruiter, and you're just trying to add stuff on your resume. Honestly, I was a part of a lot of organizations, and some of that stuff I just didn't include because I didn't feel comfortable about talking about them. And you don't want to have anything on your resume you don't feel comfortable about talking about. But anyway, we'll talk about this more in the SMART descriptions video. But within this section, you want to make sure that you include the organization or the company that you're working for, and that city and state or even country that you worked in. You want to talk about the duration. So how long were you there? You want to be specific about this. So if I worked for a summer internship, I don't want to put summer 2020. I want to put that I worked there from May 2020 to August 2020. And the reason you want to be clear about that is because you don't want to make the recruiter assume. When you say summer 2020, I don't know if you worked there only a week, if you only worked there a month, 3 months, or 4 months, you know? So you need to be specific about that, because that gives them a better idea of how feasible or how well you did in executing the things in your descriptions within that time span. In addition to that, you want to make sure that you list the position or role that you have. If you're a summer intern, then specify what department you worked in. Did you work in engineering and design? Did you work in research and development? Did you work in finance? Did you work in marketing, sales, supply chain, like even more specific in supply chain, logistics? So try to specify those things on your resume. And lastly, include those descriptions. So for your descriptions, I would say make sure you use bullet points. I do see some people using paragraphs, but to be honest, I highly recommend the bullet points because it makes it a little bit more digestible for me as a recruiter to really see, okay, these are the highlights, these are the things that you accomplished, and separate those thoughts. When you have it as one paragraph, it's a little bit harder for me to kind of nitpick and find the things that you did. That's okay, but I just prefer bullet points personally. All right. So we're getting towards the end. Hey, good with me. But we have awards and certifications. So this is another section that you can include in your resume. Again, these are a la carte items. And so awards and achievements, these could be things like if you played football, volleyball, basketball, track, whatever in high school, or even college. Did you guys go to district? Did you guys go to state? Were you recognized for different awards? You can list those on this section of your resume. If you were involved in like music and theater, maybe in theater or art, you went to these competitions for district, list those on your resume. Maybe you won awards there, list those. If you were first chair saxophone, if you're part of the honors band, go ahead and list those underneath this section, y'all. If you're a part of the dean's list, if you're part of the honor roll, go ahead and add those to your resume, y'all. If you competed in a pageant, whether you won or not, you were a participant, you were a contestant, that's still a highlight. Go ahead and add that. If you won any other awards, y'all, go ahead and add that to your resume. I will say that once you start to get older, things start outdating themselves, remove them to your resume. So when you become like a sophomore or junior in college, I would say you should probably remove some of that stuff from high school from your resume, because some recruiters are really big on that. Why do you still have high school stuff when you're in college? You should be replacing those experiences. That's totally up to you. There's room for that. Get with a career coach like myself or a mentor to help you figure out if that's appropriate or not. But those are some things that you can really put on your resume to highlight you and the things that you have done. So get a little bit creative. And then also your certifications or trainings. So maybe you're like me, you work in supply chain, you have a Lean Six Sigma certification. Add that to your resume. Maybe you've done some like sourcing negotiations. Add that to your resume as well. Maybe you have done, maybe you're first aid certified, or maybe you're forklift certified. Go ahead and add that onto your resume. Or any relevant trainings you have done, go ahead and add that. And then the last section I want to talk about are your technical skills. So these are any softwares or applications that you have experience with. So I deem this as an essential to add to your resume. So hopefully you guys know how to use Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint. If you work in corporate America or looking to work in corporate America, you will live in those 3 applications. So if you have experience with those, look, you already have technical skills that you can list. Maybe not list all 3 of them, just package it and call it Microsoft Office or Microsoft Suite instead. But there you go, that's a technical skill you have. If you are an engineer and you use different applications like NX for design or Aspen HYSYS, you've used Simulink, you've used AutoCAD, maybe you code Python, C++, go ahead and add all those things and list them out on your resume. What else? If you are in supply chain, maybe you've used SAP or Oracle, add those. If you use other things that I have not listed that are like system related and relevant and applicable to multiple businesses, add it to your resume because that's going to make you stand out and you already know how to use those systems and that's going to help you when you get into those positions. So definitely keep those in mind, y'all. But that is all I have for sections to include in your resume. I hope that you guys really learned something. You know, what are the foundations to have on my resume, but also when I do have a lot of space still, what are some things that can plug and play into my resume that still makes me sound good and take me to the next level? I can tell y'all, I ended up having 0 work experience when I first was in college and applying to internships. And so those things helped me, definitely. And then even going forward, when I worked in retail at Abercrombie, I still added that to my resume. It wasn't 100% relevant to the jobs I was applying for, but it was still work experience. So all that being said, hope you guys learned something. Stay tuned for my other videos in order to learn more about your resume and really take yourself to the next level. I promise the Smart Descriptions one is really going to change your life because when I had my personal mentors and coaches teach me this stuff, it opened lots of doors I never even imagined before, y'all. But anyway, thank you guys again for watching. Make sure to stay tuned for my other videos coming up related to elevator pitches, interviewing. If you want to see more topics, drop them below in the comments. If you have questions, drop them below. Make sure to book a one-on-one session with me to help advance your career. And follow me on social media. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, bye, y'all.